Now let's try to understand this whole interface, that is the Rattle interface. You can see in the background that we have RStudio, and anyway behind that RStudio we know that the engine which is running is R. So now let's try to understand the different options over here. So we're not going to deep dive into each of these menu elements right now. We're just trying to understand generically what all things are available in this. So let me just expand this for you. Okay, so now you can see that there are these tabs over here. Okay, so you have the execute tab, you have a new, that basically means new file. Open, that means you have an existing Rattle file or a project file, you want to open that, and save obviously means save. Export means you want to just push it into an appropriate form. So now these tabs over here are basically your funnel flow. So it's kept in a very unique way. So for example, as an analyst, as a person who's working in data science, you ideally should follow these tabs or the sequence in a way. So the first part comes in getting the data. So you can see that it gives you a briefer also that Rattle is a free GUI developed using R. It's for free environment for statistical computing, blah 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 blah. You can read that as you go ahead. Okay, you have so basically whenever you want to take the data, you want to import the data, you will be using this tab. The explore tab is basically to do some general analysis, like looking at the distributions, the correlations, the summaries, skewness, cross tab. Now we have all done these things basically when you have done your core modules, right? So how to do that in a very visual form. Then we have the test. This is basically for research, wherein we are doing various tests on data. Now for most of your course this part is not being used by us, so we'll just ignore this. Then you have the transform, which is one of the major things we do whenever we are working on data preparation. So right from scaling the data, recoding, cleaning, right? So you want to do recentering of the data, you want to convert the data from say a continuous form into a ranked data or an interval data. That's where we'll be using this. Then specifically for cluster analysis, you have this specific tab wherein you can do the k-means, you can do hierarchical clustering by clusters, but we will just end up doing maybe max to max k-means in this, and you can explore the rest of the options available. For association rule mining, you have a specific tab given over here, and for whatever models you are building, right? For example, you have these options available over here wherein you can have a tree, you can have a random forest, you can do boosting, you can do an SVM, you can do a linear regression, you can do a neural network models, survival analysis, although that's not part of your core course, typically used in insurance domain. And say you can select the various options, like for example in random forest and trees and all those things, you can specify the splits available, the bucket size, the depth of the tree, the complexity parameter, whether you want to include, exclude the missing value, and so on. All those things as an option are available over here. So once you build these models, you need to test those models, you need to evaluate those models. So obviously for that you will be having the evaluate tab. Obviously these things are not activated as of now because you have not created a model. At the moment you create a model, so for example if you create a decision tree over here, right, so obviously these you wouldn't see that the SVM will be activated, but you will obviously see that the tree part would be activated over here, and you can check mark that, and accordingly all these options depending upon whatever is applicable will get activated, and you would be able to apply those models on the training set, on the validation data set, and the testing data set, or if you want you can just push in for the full data sets also, so you can test the model on the overall data. So if you have say 1 lakh record, 70,000 is training data, say 20,000 is testing data, and 10,000 is validation data, you can choose whether you want to run it on these individual sets or you want to run it on the whole set, right? Yeah, and then you have the log files also. Basically this is the part wherein the code is saved. Basically for your Rattle, you have some parameters which are passed to RStudio. Now this is typically saved in the CRV. and for most of the part the parameters, the data and the model is fed or is bifurcated into options. So you could have CRV dollar something, CRV dollar something. So as we create the models, you can come back over here and see how it looks. You can export these things outside, and with a little bit of changes you can again maybe customize it so that you can directly run it in RStudio as well. Obviously that's not what we are trying to do over here. We are just trying to see how we can use the GUI to quickly speed up the process of prototyping our models, testing the models, and so on.